Good morning. I'm not sure if you guys will prefer the PowerPoint or the video, so I figured I'd try both for this lesson. They're both, it's kind of a short lesson, and hopefully we can figure out which one you like better. So on this one, we're going to talk about Pythagorean Theorem. So this only deals with a right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now the important thing to remember is that C has to be the hypotenuse. And when I look at the picture, the hypotenuse is the one the box points to. So in this case, that's the C part. And then the other word we're going to talk about is Pythagorean triple. So a Pythagorean triple is a set of numbers that satisfy the equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where all of the numbers are whole numbers. So what that means is that you can't have any decimals, you can't have any fractions, can't have any radicals. Like, they have to end up being whole numbers to make that work. So if I look at this first example, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out which one is the hypotenuse. So that is my C number. So if I start off with a squared plus b squared equals c squared, x has to be the c squared part because that's the one the box is pointing to. And then it doesn't matter what order you put the other two numbers. They can be in any order. So I end up with 64 plus 225 equals x squared. I add those numbers together, we get 289 equals x squared, and then I need to square root that. So on your calculator, it's the second and the x squared button. If you're using your phone, you usually have to turn it sideways, and that'll let you see the x squared part. But when I take the square root of 289, I'm going to get that x is 17. And since 17, 15, and 8 are all whole numbers, no fractions, no decimals, then we can say, yes, this is a Pyth trip. So what we're saying is that is a Pythagorean triple because they're all whole numbers. Now on the next example, again, the first thing I do is figure out which part is the hypotenuse. So in this case, it's going to be the 20 because the 20 is what the box is pointing to. So that has to be where our C part is because the C part is what the box is pointing to. And then it doesn't matter which order we put the other two numbers. So the x squared and the 15 can be in any order. So when I work this out, we're going to get x squared plus 225 equals 400. Subtract your 225 from both sides, and you get x squared equals 175. All right, now I'm going to square root that, and when I square root 175, I get 13.2. So we're going to get a decimal. Now when we get a decimal, we're going to try to simplify the radical. So if you've been in any kind of algebra class, you've probably talked about simplifying a radical. And in order to simplify a radical, you're going to figure out what can I divide 175 by? Well, I can divide that by 5. And when I divide that by 5, I get 35. And then I can divide that by 5 and get 7. And I can't divide anymore. Now, in this case, I have two 5s. I always think of this as like Fight Club. And to be in Fight Club, they have to have a set of numbers that match. Like, we have to have two 5s in order to fight. So in Fight Club, when they fight to the death. So one 5 gets out, the other one's gone. It didn't make it through the fight. And then I have this 7 here who didn't have anybody to fight with, so he is still stuck in the ring. He's still under the radical. So that answer would be 5 because I had a 5 that got out and a 7 that's still in the ring. Because we have a decimal, this would not be a Pythagorean triple. So not Pyth trip. So not Pythagorean triple. And that kind of explains the two types of problems. Now, if I was there, you would have to do this problem on your own. But again, the first thing you're going to do is figure out which part is the C part. So the x is going to go after the equal sign. So I have 8 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. That gives us 64 plus 144 equals x squared. We're going to add those two numbers together. We get 208 equals x squared. And then you're going to square root it. So when I take the square root of the 208, we are going to get 14.4. So again, now we have a decimal, so we're going to try to simplify this radical. So I know that that is an even number, so it's divisible by 2. That gives me 104. Then I'm going to divide that by 2, and I get 52. I'm going to divide that by 2, and I get 26. I'm going to divide that by 2, and I get 13. And then 13 I can't do anything with, so that's as far as we can go with that one. All right, for our Fight Club, we have to have two numbers that match. So I have a set of 2s. All right, so one of those got out, the other one's gone. I have another set of 2s that are going to fight. So one of those gets out, the other one's gone. And we have a 13 who doesn't have anybody to fight, so he's still in the ring. Now these two 2's that are outside, we're going to multiply those back together. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then the 13 couldn't get out. Since we have a decimal, this is not a pith trip. So not pith trip. Not a Pythagorean triple. All right, last example. Again, we're going to figure out where does the box point to. So it points to the 25 this time. So the 25 is the part that's by itself. So we have an x squared and a 24 squared, and that has to equal our 25 squared. So 24 squared is 576. 25 squared is 625. All right, we're going to subtract that 576 from both sides. We get x squared equals 49. And then we square root it. And in this case, we're going to get x is 7. All right, it's a whole number. We don't have to do anything else. So since 7, 24, and 25 are all whole numbers, this one is a Pythagorean triple. So yes, pith trip. And that's basically all you're doing on the homework. Now I'm going to try to write it in classroom as well, but I want you to cross out some problems on your homework. So you're going to get rid of problem 8, 9, and 10. So you don't have to solve problems 8, 9, and 10. That's just going to be ones that you can cross out. So you're only doing 1 through 7 on this assignment, so we kind of shortened it up a little bit. I'm also going to make it bonus if you can simplify the radicals. So as long as you're able to get to a decimal and determine if it's a Pythagorean triple or not, you've done the assignment. If you can simplify the radical, that's going to be bonus for your assignment.